Hello fellow brawlers, I'm KairosTime and it is time to brawl. Today we're going to be talking about the next Brawl Stars update. We'll go ahead and start off by talking about when I think it's going to happen, then I'll talk about the things that I'm confident will be coming in the next update, and then speculate on some of the things that I think that will hopefully be coming, or at least some of the ideas that could happen because of what Brawl Stars is currently missing. For starters guys, when is the update? Now personally I think that it's going to be coming sometime next week. Yeah, I know that's fast, but I think it's going to happen. Now, maybe the week after that, but I'd be really surprised if it was any later than that, and there are a lot of reasons why I think that. First off, if we look at the last 4 Brawl Stars updates, which are the ones that have happened since Brawl Stars was released globally, Supercell has averaged an update every 1 to 1.5 months. Now, as I am recording this video, it has been a month since the most recent update, and that is one big sign why I think it's coming here really soon, but that is not all. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Supercell, let me enlighten you on something that happens once a year that is every content creator's biggest fear. That's right, guys. I'm talking about the content summer drought.
Kairos, I asked you not to talk about that.
I know, Stewie McBeaker, I'm sorry. It's just, we have to talk about it sometimes. Here's a quick rundown of basically what I'm talking about, okay? So Supercell is based in Finland, and in Finland, there's some sort of a law that like requires companies to give their full-time employees a month off so that they can then spend time with their family, go on vacation, you know, rejuvenate the batteries and everything. Personally, I think it's like a really cool thing. I think it's awesome, but it does make it a little bit tricky for those of us that create content on the game full-time. And we don't get updates as often as we want to, but that's okay. Supercell's no exception to this rule, and basically what happens is every Finland employee that is in their Supercell HQ, which is basically all of the Brawl Stars team, is going to be taking a month-long break from work. So the question is, when will that happen, and will we get an update before that? Well, if you guys use Twitter, I highly recommend following Frank, because, or the Brawl Stars team lead. Not only does he do a really great job at kind of like adding to the Brawl Stars community, he's got some good posts and asks some really good questions. He's a lot of fun. He's a really cool guy. He really is. But every now and then you also may see some information from him that would well, you wouldn't really want to miss. Now, if you don't have Twitter, you can just follow me, because I'll probably just talk about the most juicy stuff that it gives out. But basically, somebody responded to one of his tweets saying that they're currently having summer break, and Frank responded by saying, "Ours will be in July." Smiling face with smiling eyes emoji. Now this is a really important clue, because Supercell is likely wanting to release an update before they actually leave for summer break. In fact, I'm pretty confident that they want to, because just a few weeks ago, Ark, a Brawl Stars YouTuber and Twitch content creator, brought Frank onto a live stream Q&A. Now I don't remember exactly what Frank said while I was watching the stream, but it was something along the lines of them wanting to get a decent amount of content out so that we would not be bored during the summer. Now, if you put all of that together, guys, basically what we're looking at is an update happening sometime next week, unless they happen to start their vacation in the middle of July instead of like at the beginning. That, you know, it's a little bit of speculation, but I have been pretty good about guessing when previous updates would be, so I don't imagine that I'll be too far off. If I am wrong, I will chew some bubblegum. Don't make me do it, Supercell. I've had enough. Okay, now let's talk about what will be coming in the update. I'm like 90% sure that we will be getting a new brawler, since out of the last 4 updates, we've received a brawler each time, and Supercell seems to be really on a good pace with how quickly they're releasing those brawlers. I'm like 90% sure that we'll get some type of a character model for either Terra, Pam, El Primo, Daryl, or Crow, because we have gotten a character model with most of the past several updates, but we didn't get one last time, so I'm hoping that like it's been enough time that we will actually get one this time. Now, Piper also does need a character remodel, but Frank specifically said in one of his tweets that her remodel will not happen before the summer. Now, additionally, I'm like 99% sure that we'll get some more maps added into the game, because Ray, Brawl Stars YouTuber, you know, check him out if you haven't already, he actually held a map making contest on his channel, an official one that Brawl Stars asked him to host, that is specifically geared toward getting some community-made 3v3 maps that would then be reviewed by the Supercell devs to be put into the game. So like, there's a 1% chance that might not happen, but I'm assuming that somebody made some good maps that are going to be put in there. Now, I'm about 60% sure that we will have some sort of balance changes, but I don't actually think that they will be very extensive. I think that we'll see a nerf to Penny's star power, and maybe BB will be a rebalance just a little bit. Maybe Carl as well. I don't know. We'll see. Now, just as a quick reminder, for the last update, we didn't actually get very many balance changes for the update. The big list of balance changes actually came a few weeks after the update. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I would not be surprised if Supercell started to follow this same pattern where they focus all of their efforts on like putting together a really nice update, and then like a couple of weeks later focus on having a big list of balance changes between updates so that it feels more like we're getting consistent content. I'm also like 60% sure that we'll get some type of voice acting for one of the brawlers. My guess is it will be BB, since Supercell doesn't seem to want to add some voices to some of the brawlers in the game, like, you know, Spike or Terra. I'm like 90% sure that we'll also get some more skins because Supercell has been pumping them out really frequently. Now, those are like the obvious things that, you know, probably we're getting kind of used to seeing those with every single update. But with the next update, I think that there's a lot of things that we could be getting, because like last update we got BB, we got a Metropolis theme, but there wasn't like actually like a decent amount of content that would prevent us from getting bored during the summer. So I figure what the best thing we could do is talk a little bit about what is missing from Brawl Stars right now that might possibly be added into the update, because remember, the team did want to release some stuff before summer so that we wouldn't be bored. Now, we don't know if the team will actually succeed in this or not. They might, you know, maybe they tried to put something together really big that won't happen in time or something. We don't know that, but we do know that that was at least their goal, or at least Frank kind of alluded toward that. Now, I think that the most people that are currently bored with the game are probably those that have been playing since beta. This is because Supercell has been working so hard and so long on making the game better for these newer global players. That makes a ton of sense, because their whole goal is to get the game ready for global and for that global player base. So with all that said, I think that the goal for this update is likely to release some sort of content for the long-time players like me and other beta players that are starting to feel that the meta is a little bit stale. Even like the higher spending players that like are willing to shell out, you know, like maybe $50 a month or something for Brawl Stars, they are very likely reaching end game right now. And so content that will hopefully be good for those long-term players will also be good for those pay-to-play players, and then also will give the global players, the more free-to-play people, a little bit more of a goal to reach end game in one way or another, because right now, well, there's not a whole lot. So now, me and quite a few other content creators have been spreading around a lot of big idea topics that we think we could really like. Like Lex has talked about having some sort of a league system in place, so there's an actual reason to push your brawlers past 500 trophies. The idea would be that you would earn some type of a reward based off of the league that you land on at the end of the season. It would be more of like a skill-based thing instead of like a time-based thing, because the current ladder is, you know, while it does require a lot of skill, it absolutely does. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but the biggest factor beyond skill is really just how much time you put into it. So my idea for like some type of a ranked league would be that you're only able to play up to like 4 matches a day. Okay, and based on how well you do, you'd move up or lower in rank, you know, to face other people that are similar to your league. Then at the end of the season, or even like as you progress through the season, as you reach new leagues, then you would be rewarded depending on how well you did. Now, the reason to limit it to a certain number of matches a day, once again, is so that it would become skill-based rather than time-based, so we could actually find out who the best players are, aside from like them just having to put in a ton of time. Now, this is a very basic outline of what some sort of league system could look like, and although it is really simple, I think that it would do a really great job at giving players a reason to actually like log in every day, play their league matches, and await their reward near the end of the season, or as I said, get them as you progress through it. This is absolutely something that I would really love, and I would very be interested in trying it out, because one thing that I think the game currently is lacking is a reason to keep playing after you've gotten all of your star tokens for the day, or all of your tokens for the day for that matter. And the rewards for pushing up higher in the ladder are like really minuscule for the amount of time that it takes to reach them. Like, yeah, you know, you reach 13,000 trophies and they're like, hey, here's like 150 gold. And you're like, sweet, all my brawlers are maxed now, so this gold does nothing for me. Let's talk about another idea that Ray actually talked about in one of his videos about having multiple star powers that you could choose to equip on your brawler. Now, once again, another big thing that is missing from Brawl Stars is a lack of strategic depth after you've played the game a ton. I'm not saying that Brawl Stars is not a deep game, but if you look at a lot of MOBA-style games like Brawl Stars, even like other mobile games, offer a lot more depth into how the characters actually interact with each other on the battlefield, or even off the battlefield. Currently, as it stands, you have your attack, you have your super, and you have your star power. And each brawler only has 1 star power, and there are 2 cool ways that Supercell could actually add more depth by adding more star powers into the game. Now the first, and like most likely what Supercell would do if they did implement something like this, is that they would make it so that like each brawler has 2 or more possible star powers that you could like unlock from the boxes or purchase in the shop. As long as you had unlocked them, you could then choose which of the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to equip to your brawler. This would add, oh my gosh, this would add so much depth into the Brawl Stars endgame, because you'd have to make a conscious effort to choose which star power would work for the given map and for your given team comp, and for like maybe even the specific game mode. There could be a lot of high skill cap star powers like Dynamite's jumping ability, as well as very low skill cap brawlers like Crow's decreased enemy damage. You could choose between more DPS or more health for some brawlers. Other brawlers might have star powers that you have to choose between more ability or defense. I think you guys get the idea. Personally, I think it's a really great idea. It's something that I have thought a ton about from the very first day that star powers were first introduced into the game. I was like, we need more of them. And I'm all about like those things added into the game that make that create an opportunity for you to make a conscious decision outside of battle that will impact your success in battle. That's actually one of the big reasons why I love Clash Royale so much, because deck building played a huge role in how well you did, and it didn't require like that Twitch response to do well, or like those, that you get what I'm saying. You can think about your deck for a long period of time, and thinking about these star powers is something that I think would be really fun. Now there is another way that multiple star powers could be introduced into the game. Now rather than having to choose which star power to equip to your brawler, after you get your first star power, you could then upgrade your brawlers from level 10 to level 11, and then 2 star powers would actually be applied to your brawler. This would do a few things, for either for better or for worse. For starters, it would significantly increase the strategic depth of the game mid-battle. And also, there would also be less strategic depth like outside of the battle, like the last suggestion I suggested, but while you're playing, there would be a lot more to consider, especially when you're playing against other players that have multiple star powers. And another thing to think about is that this would also widen the gap, the pay-to-win gap is what I'm talking about there. There are a lot of pros and cons depending on how you look at that, and I'm not going to get into the details, but it is something to consider. Personally, I really like the idea of a level 11, but doing it through star powers isn't exactly how I would want Supercell to do it. But if they were to do it, I would actually like a combination of having to choose between multiple star powers and a level 11. So I think what Supercell would be the best way to do it would be for them to introduce the second star power for each of the brawlers in the game, and then they could add a third, a fourth, or maybe even a 5th star power so that each brawler had multiple options to choose from. Then, once players could have an opportunity to mess with things, Supercell, and then also, of course, Supercell would have to have all of the star powers balanced. They could also make it so that you could pay gold to unlock a second star power slot or upgrade to level 11. And then you would have to choose 2 of the 3 or 2 of the 5 star powers that you could apply to your brawlers. This would require a lot more time to roll out than just like an update coming up like next week, but I would absolutely love more strategic depth, both before battle and in the middle of battle. I also like the idea of multiple star powers being a way to increase the depth of the game, because new players wouldn't be confused at the additional mechanics early on in the game. That's one thing I like about Brawl Stars, is how much easier it is for like a new player to pick it up as a MOBA in comparison to a lot of other MOBAs. Now another thing that I think Supercell could bring into the game to really help keep players from getting bored could be a level 11, different than adding another star power. I already talked about this in another video, so I'm not really going to go into the detail here, but I would love a third ability just beyond our regular attack and super that you could actively control. I like to think of this as like another ability, like an ultimate ability of some sorts that actually charges over time rather than how many hits you actually land off on a player. Once again, this is all about increasing the depth of battle beyond just improving your Twitch responses. One other idea that has been discussed by multiple YouTubers, myself included, is a game mode that has more or less than 3 players on a team. It would be fantastic if Supercell were somehow able to create another solo game mode like Solo Showdown that did not actually favor teaming like Showdown currently does. I would also love some sort of a 5v5 game mode that required a lot more strategy than we currently have, and maybe even like had longer lasting games. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think that we'll get a new game mode in this update simply because we recently got Siege. Also, another idea, I can't tell you how many times somebody has suggested this, but some type of like Club Wars. Personally, I don't think that Brawl Stars is quite ready for Club Wars since it was only released globally like 7 months ago, but there's definitely a huge lack of a reason to actually be in a club in the moment. On my main account, I'm in the Cactus Bandits, which is the 5th highest club in the world. And because I play mostly with randoms so that I can get a good feel of how my viewers feel, there's hardly a reason for me to ever need to really interact with my club. Club Wars or Club Chest or some type of club minigame or something would be a really nice addition to the game. Supercell games have always been about socializing with others, and I would really wager that more than 70% of the socialization that currently happens in Brawl Stars is done in a room chat rather than in an actual club chat or with a club. I could be wrong there. I absolutely could be, but that's my guess overall across all of Brawl Stars. My guess is a lot of players just don't even join a club because there's not much of a reason to. Okay guys, I've talked a lot about several ideas that could be implemented in the upcoming Brawl Stars update. I know that a lot of this is speculation, but it is based off of what I think Brawl Stars is currently lacking the most. I'm really curious to know what you guys would like to have added into the game beyond just like the regular stuff, such as like in a new brawler, new skins. You know, like, do you guys like the ideas that I discussed in today's video, or do you think that there's something else that Supercell should add? No matter what, guys, make sure you subscribe so you do not miss any actual news on the upcoming update, because I will be covering it as quickly as I possibly can. For now, guys, this is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in Brawl Stars.